In 1959, Fidel Castro and the communist regime took over Cuba, and the Cubans were forced to migrate to escape communist persecution. Economic and living conditions also worsened under Castro's rule. Many left in fear of being executed by the communist government for speaking against them.
Most of these Cuban immigrants were wealthy and highly educated refugees between the 1960s and the 1980s. But as time passed, Cuban immigrants coming into America become poorer.
The immigrants chose to migrate to America because it provided them with a better life and a higher chance of employment and political freedom.
I hate government. I hate government. I hate government. It was also relatively close to Cuba, and many of the immigrant families had already immigrated to America before them. This type of migration is called chain migration.
Welcome, come in, Michelle. Come in.
Many of the refugees who tried migrating by sea were captured by Cuban officials and were jailed upon their arrival in Cuba. Another intervening obstacle was that they simply did not have enough money. As Cuban immigrants coming into the U.S. became poor, stereotypes also became associated with these immigrants. Another major problem was communication.
There is a wet foot, dry foot policy for Cuban immigrants. This policy states that the U.S. will only let Cuban immigrants who came from the United States. One who came from the sea are sent back to Cuba or sent to the third country. This policy also ensures that the U.S. will admit at least 2,000 immigrants every year. The Cuban Adjustment Act states that any native or citizens of Cuba that has been physically presented in the U.S. after January 1st, 1959, and has lived there for a year are considered as a permanent resident of the U.S. Unfortunately, this act ended in 1966.
Immigration of Cubans from Cuba to the United States resulted in the establishment of Cuban cigar factories in Tampa. Massive Cuban migration to Miami also led to major demographic and cultural changes in Miami. Miami is now multicultural and multiracial, with a mix of Miami languages and customs and Cuban languages and customs.
Many immigrants hope to be able to move back to Cuba after the problem of their corrupted government is solved. Cuban immigrants also have much lower incomes compared to other foreign-born and those who are native-born. 33% of Cuban immigrants live in poverty, a rate higher percentage. As of 2013, 21% of Cuban immigrants had a bachelor's degree or higher.
A fun fact is that most Cuban refugees didn't go to Miami at first. Most settled in Westchester, although Miami did eventually surpass them as having the most Cuban immigrants. About 65% of the Florida population is of Cuban descent.